I'd like to start today with a quote from a famous leader that both Mike and I very much admire. Mike probably even more than myself. And that quote is that if you're leading and no one is following, you're just out for a walk by yourself. That quote is from, I won't mention any names, but their initials is Mike Clayton.
I probably borrowed it from somebody else. So it's okay.
Mike, I have, as we're going to talk about leadership today, I have a question for you right off the top. If someone desires to be a congregational leader, can they just read the Bible and pray, or do they actually need some kind of leadership training and equipping to be effective?
Oh, that takes us back to the age-old question, are leaders born or are they made? Well, the truth is that every leader is born. Yes. So you know, in order to be a leader, it helps to be born first. Is a leader made? Yes. And that's probably the reason why many people don't want to go there. Now, not everyone, in my estimation, not everyone is born to be a leader. You know, you have the concept of sheep and a shepherd. Well, if everyone's a shepherd, there's no procreation going on, if you get what I'm talking about. You're going to end up with a group of people sitting in a field, and there's no flock to shepherd. So not everyone is called to be a shepherd. Some people are called to be sheep, and to them, I would say, be the best sheep you can. You know, sheep bite. My pastor used to say years ago, Pastor Brinkle said, one of the problems about sheep is they bite. Well, if you're called to be a sheep, please do your shepherd a favor and don't bite them. Understand that they have your best interest at heart. With all that being said, if a person feels they are to be a leader, the first thing I think they need to do, yes, is get into the scripture, learn how to study, learn how to pray, but also get around people that you believe are leaders and learn how to lead. You have to put effort into anything in life. And what I found is the best thing to do. If I want to learn how to do something, I'm going to find someone that I respect in that job, in that calling, in whatever it is.
So not just
and then I'm going to figure that out. I'm going to go in there with the attitude of, I want to learn how to do what they do. Is that a long answer there?
So you have to respect them. It's not just somebody you find on YouTube then.
Probably the last person I'm going to look to is someone on YouTube. Let me give you an example, Barry. Years ago, I made a decision that I wanted to be more efficient at firearms. Now, I'd grown up hunting. I'd grown up with firearms around me. I had spent time in the military, which in my job field did not make me proficient at anything really of firearms. So I wanted to be more proficient at it, especially handgun. And so I was driving back from the Northwest one time, and I heard a guy on the radio that was doing a podcast or was doing a radio program. Later on, he would do a podcast to help him out in that. But I listened to him, and I'm like, this is a guy that I feel like I could learn from. He's saying the things I've been wanting to know. He lived about 2 hours away from me when we were in Arizona. I got in my truck and drove to his store. He owned a gun shop. I drove to his store and met him. I spent some time with him. And I said, in the end, I need to learn from this man. And so I started attending his classes, but I did so not just for my own proficiency, but from the moment I walked in with the attitude of, I'm going to one day do his job.
Mhm.
That's the way that you develop leadership, is you find a leader that you can respect, that's going in the right direction, and then you basically spend everything you can, all the energy you have, learning from them how to be like them, with your own personality involved in it.
So we have someone attached to House of David that has um, established a firing range at their home outdoors. And there are occasions where we have folks that gather and they practice. If you're going, this is not a program on firearms, but it's the subject at hand. Um, the man who owns the property also has a friend who is a retired Marine who is a weapons aficionado, well trained, well equipped, and well versed, not only in handling self defense for himself, but knows how to teach it. And so we're gathered, we go through the safety protocols, how things are going to work. He gives his requirements of how things are going to be. There are no questions asked, this way it's going to be. But as I'm testing myself, I'm watching him as, I may be reloading a clip or something, and I'm realizing he uses a different methodology than I do.
Yeah.
His stance, his approach, and so forth. And I'm thinking, I need to learn that way, because if that's the way he's chosen, there's something as an advantage. Because I'm sure he's gone through every stance and approach and so forth and found this is what works best. So you're right. You in leadership, when Laura and I were pastoring our first church, there were several occasions where I ran into some kind of issue. I'll put it that way. Some kind of something was going on, and I didn't know what to do. I was admittedly green and a rookie pastor, and I was learning on the job. I knew how to preach, I knew how to sing, and I knew how to shake hands and smile a lot. And I realized I'm pastoring people, the majority of which are older than I am. And they're looking at me as if I don't have their life experience and understanding. So what
You don't. Yeah.
I need wisdom. When I speak and speak from the word, I need to offer them that which is helpful to them, life encouraging, life instructing for them. But people bring their problems and they bring their issues and their baggage. When I had a situation that I had no clue as to what to do, I called the man that was, in my estimation, my pastor, who had had years of experience, and he would graciously talk with me on the phone. I had a situation where I was being challenged in my leadership role, and he had a few people with him. And my pastor told me, he said, forget the people around him, deal with the man in front.
Yeah.
It's the man up front. And if you think about it, Mike, you got a Western that you're watching, and the sheriff is standing out on the stoop with a scatter gun in his hand, protecting the prisoner from a lynch mob. And you got one bold voice right up front with the rope in their hand saying, we're coming to get him. Stand aside, sheriff. He lowers the shotgun at the chest area of the man out front, and you back him down. I know I can't take all of you out, but you're the first target. And when he realizes I'm not committed to this cause enough to die for it, he will back down, and so will everyone else around him.
Yeah. Everybody else
Go
scatters.
after the biggest devil you got, and that's not always a human being.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to deal with the spirit that's up front. If you're called to leadership, it's not about pats on the back and attaboys. It's about knowing what to do when it's hard.
You mentioned going after the one in the front. Okay, sometimes in trying to become a leader, developing leadership skills, the most difficult person to deal with is you, is the person. Okay.
Well, let's
And,
go
this
there.
yeah. This is something that I don't know if I found this out by random chance or if I read it or what, but in doing something in life, I go back to the time that I was dealing with firearms, or if I'm trying to develop a better golf swing, or whatever it is. Maybe you're wanting to learn how to paint. Maybe you're learning how to work on your car. This goes across the board at everything. Go into a learning situation as if you knew nothing.
Mhm.
Okay. This is a difficult thing to get over. Is if you're going to learn something, the the greatest obstacle to your learning is what you already know.
You could say that about 10 times. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Like you said, with watching this Marine, you're looking at him as he's loading a magazine, as he's doing these different things, and you're like, wait a minute, this guy has a proficiency that I don't have. So in order to develop that proficiency in something, you have to actually retrain your own muscle memory. And retraining your own muscle memory is a difficult thing, and can be at times. I mean, it's a challenge. You brought up the Marine thing. They found out that they were losing a lot of men in combat. This was in the time of the Gulf Wars, and the reason being is because of the way they were training. And this was told to me by somebody that knew about this process. So on the range, in basic training and in continued training, you were required to, when you dropped a magazine, you had to grab that magazine. You couldn't leave it behind. You had to make sure you stopped. You got the magazine. You took it with you, so there's nothing laying there on the range afterwards. Well, that became muscle memory. And they found out that they were losing men, and I guess women, in real combat. Because when they dropped a magazine, they stopped, they paused. Instead of putting the new mag in, they paused to get the old one and put it in their pocket. Which in real life training is an empty magazine is absolutely useless. If it doesn't have bullets in it, it doesn't have any use to you. So that muscle memory was actually costing lives. Now, I did this. You'll appreciate this one. Whenever I was, you got a driver, of course, you have your T that you're using. When I'm using a less than driver off a tee box, I would normally just grab a piece of a tee that's somewhere, a broken tee that somebody's left there. That way it's teeing the ball down a little bit lower. You understand the concept if others don't. But this gives you the difference with different clubs. Well, I was actually using that broken tee, and I never, why would I pick up a broken tee? Why would I pick up this scrap of a tee, bend down and even bother? I just leave it there. Well, I found some tees that I like to use for that situation of less than driver. And guess what I was doing? I was costing myself money because I was leaving them behind. Because my muscle memory was that you just leave that tee if it's not the driver tee. And so I was costing myself, looking around, becoming frustrated, and I had to retrain my muscle memory to, when I'm using that, to get the different tee. It sounds a little bit silly, but this is what life is, that we develop muscle memory about things. You can call that, obsession. You can call that impulse, whatever you want. retraining yourself to be something different takes time, and it takes energy, and it takes concentration. It takes effort.
So, leads me to a thought here. It says in Matthew 4 that Yeshua was walking by the Sea of Galilee, saw two brothers, Shimon and Andre. He said to them, "Follow me, I shall make you fishers of men." And immediately they left their nets and followed him. And then, of course, he goes to the sons of Zebedee, Yaakov, and Yochanan, and they immediately left the boat and their father and followed him as well. He said, "I will make you fishers of men."
Mm-hmm.
So when these four men and then these others that would follow afterwards, when they followed Yeshua, they were not immediately capable of fishing for men. Yeshua had to train them, to equip them, and then give them an opportunity to actually do this man fishing thing on their own. A leadership principle I learned years ago is, in order to develop someone into a leader, you show them how the job is done. You do, secondly, the job with them. And then thirdly, you let them do the job.
Exactly.
So Yeshua, later on in Matthew 10, says he called his 12 taught ones near, gave them authority over unclean spirits to cast them out, heal every disease and every bodily weakness. And he told them, as you go, proclaim the reign of the heavens has drawn near. So he gave them the message, and then he gave them the confirming signs following power and anointing to do what it is that needed to be done. But that only took place after they had been with him. Later on in Acts 3, chapter 3, I think it is, 3 or 4. I had a little thought thing there. They are standing before the elders, and it says that after they rebuked them, they took note that these had been with Yeshua.
Mm-hmm.
The quality, the character, the performance, the message, the attitude, the boldness, all of those things that these men did not have when they were throwing nets in the water. After 3 years with Yeshua, they had that acquired. When you start out in leadership, you don't start out being a groomed, qualified, well-seasoned leader. You got to go through some ups and downs. You need some victories. You need to understand how to recover from some, I didn't do that so goods. Some crushing defeats at times. Some moments where you want to hide in a closet and say, I hope they don't find me because I'm done. You also need those moments where everything fell in place, the glory showed up, people are spectacularly moved, and it is just euphoria on earth. The next opportunity to reveal leadership may not be at that level, and you can't beat yourself up because, well, it's not as big as last time. No.
Yeah.
Ride that high wave as you can, but understand the next wave is going to be probably a lot smaller. You got to be skillful in that moment as well. What I'm saying is, Mike, Yeshua had to train these men. And the idea that we are going to receive a powerful anointing without some mechanics is not wise. Men with authority and power who don't know how to use it, that's like electricity without proper grounding. It's bad news.
Well, what you're describing is kind of the parenting of a firstborn. Oh. Every firstborn should be apologized to. they go through the leadership training of parents who have never done that before. Your concepts of that someone taught you, I was taught it this way, is you watch me teach, then I'll watch you teach, then you teach. And that is the calling of Yeshua. He says, okay, come with me. I'm going to make you fishers of men. So you're going to watch me teach, then, and you guys now go 2 by 2, and I give you authority to do these things. Now I'm going to watch you teach. And the book of Acts is then, and you teach. So this is the concept. But Yeshua had to go through, again, the muscle memory. These men had a muscle memory for fish, which is basically this: catch them, gut them, and clean them. That was their muscle memory. And Kepha probably was really good at that one. They had to change their muscle memory into catch them, let him clean them, because he's the one that can deal with the guts better than I can. Okay? Yeah. If you want to do the, being fishers of men means that he's the one that does the cleaning. We don't. Because we're going to make a mess of the thing. We need to put that into practice. So again, leadership is something that you need to find someone that fully is parenting. Okay, any parent, this is the greatest piece of advice that I could give to a parent, and one that I really wish that I had known. My children would probably thank anyone that would have given me this advice. Find the best parent out there in your opinion. Look at the children. Become a student of people around you. And then get in their pocket. Learn what they know. Now, Barry, the only issue with this is that I find in our day few people worth following.
Yeah.
That's the tragedy of the life that we have today. There are few people in this world worth following. If you're basing what you're following on what a person looks like on a platform, on a podcast, on a broadcast, if all you're doing is seeing them in their best moment, you're not going to really get anything. You need to find people that you can be around at their worst moment. And then, as we talked about last week, don't define them by their worst moment, but see how they react to their worst moment, because we're all going to have those bad moments. You can learn from a person in their worst moment, sometimes even more than you can learn from them in their best moment.
Well, let's think about this, Mike. You would not necessarily go to Moshe to learn how to be a parent. The prophet Samuel probably wouldn't go to him. His 2 sons did not follow in his ways, and they were taking bribes and proving to be faulty leaders. That's why Israel asked for a king. Just because someone has a commanding presence and personality and are exceptionally gifted and skilled in the arena of being a good leader or having power with Yah does not mean that they know how to handle family well. Now, the exhortation from Rav Shaul was that if you want to be an overseer or a leader of a congregation, you need to have the command and respect of your family, and your household needs to be in order. If your household's out of order, you don't qualify to be a leader of a congregation. that's hard stuff, especially in our day where in years gone by, the difference between generations was not that stark. But since modern days of America, you can tell a dramatic difference in attitude and life approach from one decade to the other, not just a generation. The shift from the 40s to the 50s was dramatic. From the 50s to the 60s was even more so. Once we got into the 70s and 80s, I mean, it was shifting nonstop and morphing into today. It's kind of hard to tell who is who anymore. So the idea, a good place to follow where you're talking about is not so much a parent who still has children at home and are raising them. Look for the grandparent who has successful adult children who honor and respect them. Not everyone who has successful children have children that honor and respect their parents.
Yeah.
If you can find a grandparent whose adult children are doing, it's not that they're doctors and lawyers so much, they are successful at being parents themselves, following in their own parents' model. That's who you can learn from. One other aspect of this leadership before we run out of time here, Mike. At the time of this recording, a recent tour portion was Cork. And Cork led a large group of people. He had a large, imposing force, but he was leading the cause of offense. Just because you get, it's dangerous to try to be a leader of people who are mad.
Yeah.
And how many congregations, in all honesty, like House of David, you gathered a group of people who had some form of discontent and dissatisfaction, and they appointed you, or you discerned, I need to lead this group. I need to help them. If your leadership is focused on fomenting the offense, and that's all you got, you're going to run out of steam. Yah wisely, how could I even say it's not going to be wise, but I am very thankful for the wisdom that Yah gave me when he spoke to me with less than a year after House of David started.
Yeah. You've
taken anger as far as you can go. You need to teach these people what to be joyful about.
There you go.
And that saved House of David, because we would not be in existence now if I was still beating the drums about what was wrong with the previous system.
Mm-hmm. So be careful in what you're saying. Be careful of the motivations of the person that you're following. Try to discern those.
Yes.
And I don't follow a person because they can speak good. Great orators can be a cover-up for great failure.
Man, you need a sign with that on it behind your head there. Honestly, Mike, I mean, that is a profound statement, and I wish that I had known earlier on that because someone is anointed to stand in the pulpit and preach doesn't mean that they are great character.
Well, we had a previous administration president years ago that was known as a great orator. I thought he was an empty suit. Come to find out, I'm being shown right. His name was Barack Obama. They said he could speak well. I never thought he could. But people thought, oh, he speaks so well. I saw emptiness every time he opened his mouth because he had no idea who he was. And maybe that brings me to my closing thought is this. If you're following somebody that doesn't know who they are and where they're going, you may end up being left out there somewhere not knowing who you are and having no clue of where you're going. I look for somebody that's going somewhere. and I make a choice. Do I want to go to where they're going? And the end result, going back to when I was training with Cope, I looked at where he was at and where he was going in his proficiency, and I said, that is where I want to go. So now I need to follow, and I need to listen, and I need to rearrange my muscle memory, and I need to get to where that's going to take me to where he is and where he's going.
My final thought on this is Yeshua demonstrated a willingness to give of himself to whatever length necessary for his followers. So someone who was only in it for themselves, be careful about that. I had someone this week to contact me about something they heard on the internet, and it was just bad theology.
Mm-hmm.
And the person, I don't know how many followers they have and likes that they get and so forth, but I listened to what was offered and I thought, you can't make that connection. You can't take that verse and this verse and put them together and come up with a doctrine and a theological declaration, because it's not correct. And it was capable of waylaying people. But if someone is throwing stuff out there in any subject just to get likes, thumbs ups, and additional followers and subscriptions to their online presence, that's not someone that when you're in crisis is going to come to your aid.
Yeah.
You need to follow people that are willing to be hands-on, that are willing to get it in the ditch and help you out. And that takes a pastor's heart as far as congregations go. Other subjects, again, you look for those that are successful and have a willingness to teach without browbeating and destroying you in the process. So,
well, this is a subject we could continue on with a lot of other things. Maybe we will in the future. But speaking of leading something, as leading people somewhere, how's that for a transition?
That's a great segue.
There you go. Connect to Israel 2025, which is October this year, right after Sukkot. Bezrat Hashem, God willing, things are looking better on a daily basis in Israel. The rocket attacks are down next to nothing. There is talk of a ceasefire with Hamas, or which is basically called a time for them to rearm. But it does give us a window of time right now for our Connect to Israel tour. I do have some slots available still, but the good news is, and this is what I've been looking for, flights. The logistics of this is a nightmare when we don't have airplanes flying there except for El Al. So United has just announced they will start flying this month, which Delta will be following that, I'm sure. And those are the two main airlines I like to use. So if somebody's been sitting back going, well, I'm just kind of concerned about this, this is a time to go ahead and say, no, it's time to go. So connecttoisrael.org. And people can get all the information. They can email me. Don't book flights yet, okay? But you can email me, give you some information, and then as soon as we have the final go ahead, we book flights. And I know one person probably that you know pretty well. I'm just kind of thinking that her suitcase has been out for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that might have the same first name as somebody you're married to, but not the same person. She's probably been, I'm thinking she's probably been Laura.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Hey, I was thinking last names. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you were thinking, no. So the other Laura. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
kind of thinking
yeah.
she's probably a few times has thought about that suitcase. I wouldn't doubt this if there's already some things in it.
Yeah, started packing already. Perhaps, perhaps. So I can tell you from personal experience, if you want to go to Israel and you've never been to Israel, the Connect to Israel tour is the top tour you want to take. Other people take tours. You can see some of the same sites, perhaps, but Mike and Hanot Young, as a combination of tour leader and tour guide, unmatched. You can't beat their price. The accommodations are good. They're clean. The food is plentiful. It's nourishing. You'll enjoy it, and you will be taken to places that actually mean something, and not just a checklist of go on to the next holy site. That's not what they do. You
Yeah,
will encounter the land. You will encounter the people, and you'll come away with not just a tour, but a life-changing experience. And
that's what I'm praying
I
for.
I can't promote them strong enough. They are the ones to go with.
All right, connectisrael.org. And Barry, we'll pick it up somewhere next week.
All right, brother. Until then, shalom. Thank y'all.
You got it.